Hey guys, Brian Holder here. Brian Holder Graphic Design. Check me out online, bjholder.com/wwb. So I put all my WYSIWYG web builder tutorials. And today you should hit the +1 button right now, hit the like button right now, because we're going to dive into jQuery Masonry. I've had a few requests for a tutorial on how to use this. And we're going to get into it right now. So what is jQuery Masonry? Well, what it does is it allows you to take elements that are on your page and float them to the left. And then also what it's going to do is, let's say you have a nice grid layout here, okay? But what happens is when you float objects to the left, let's say you have this object, the green box, this pink box, and this blue box. The next object that floats to the left, since there's no more room here on the right, will come down to the very next line, which is going to be way down here. And the reason it's way down here is because it's being forced to the bottom of this pink box. Okay? And what the jQuery Masonry does is allows you to kind of bring those up, and it's going to arrange these tiles in the best fit that it can find. And it's going to fill in all the spaces. And so what this does is it allows you to have a somewhat responsive design. So you can see here with this line starts down here, and then with this blue box, that line is going to start down here at the bottom because these are all tall. Okay. So what we're going to do here, and I'm going to show you how this works real quick so you get a brief understanding. So you see how this rearranged, it doesn't look anything like what my page looked like. Okay. So what it did is it resized the width of the container here because it's hard to explain right at the moment. I'll explain that in a few minutes when we get into how I did this. But each column here has a certain width that you can set. Okay, so I have enough room on my monitor to fit 4 of those columns. So that's why I have 4 columns displayed here and not 3. And then so just to show you what happens here when we resize this, as we scale down our browser, you can see things start to rearrange until you're like an iPhone size browser here, and everything's in line with each other in one single column. So that's how you can use this as a responsive. So let's get into how I did this. First thing here, let me change the color so you can see it a little bit. I have a layer laid out. Okay, it's one big layer, and that's what you see in the dark gray. Okay, I named it, I changed the ID, and I named it content-layer. You want this layer to have a pretty unique ID, something that nothing else on the website's using at all. Okay, inside of this layer, you can put objects that you want to float. I just used other layers, so each one of these is another layer. There's lots of layers on this page, but this is layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and the reason I used the layers is now I can put a headline in here with some text, and it can all be styled a little bit differently, and I'll be able to float that entire box rather than having to float each piece of text by itself. Because if you try to do them by itself, you can't really control where those are going to end up. It's going to be different on everybody's monitor. So you want to put them inside of a layer so you know that at least they're all contained together in one inside of one object. Okay. So I named each layer, okay, and I made them all the same width. That's what's important. You want your layers to have the same width. It works on a grid. Okay, so you could have 2 more boxes in here. Like for instance, let me just show you here. Let me Control C, Control V, and we'll go 140 by 140. Okay, and I just got to come down 20 pixels. Control C, Control V, and then line this guy up right here. Okay, and then we just change the colors a little bit. We'll do a bright red and something different, so we know we got something different. Maybe, oh, I don't know. How about focus off of cyan color there. Okay, so you can do that as well, as long as everything fits within one width. Okay, so it's hard to see it, but you have to imagine that this is one column right here, this is the second column, and this is the third column. Okay. So now when we preview this and you see those two, they floated that way. And as we shrink this down, they should have gone next to each other, I would think. Nope, they went on top. So it's not perfect. Not sure what happened there. But I just would say make all of your layers the same width, and you can avoid that altogether. So I'll get rid of those for now. Alright, so the next step you want to do once you get all of your layers and all of your content on there, you're going to go to Object HTML. Actually, you know what? Go get the extension first. Go to Tools, Extension Manager, do a search for Masonry. Okay, and it'll show up. And just install that extension. So once you grab this extension here and you drag it out onto the screen, you can go in and you have something called the Selector. This is basically the class, okay, like a CSS class. So what you can name this anything you want. I would recommend leaving it as item, and in case you don't know, like what you're doing, or if you're just playing around, just leave it as item. You don't really need to change it. And then you'll see here, see how it says content dash layer? That's the name of that main layer that I put everything in. That's why you want it to be unique. That's how you can identify it in here. Okay, so your column width, remember how I said I had 3 even columns here? I can change the width of what I want those to be. You know, I could change this to 640. Okay, and if I change that to 640 pixels per column, you see now I only have 2 columns because I only have room to squeeze in 2. Okay, but we don't want to do that. We want to keep it at 4. So we'll go back in and change that back to 320. And you can adjust the amount of padding that you have around each. You got to make sure that everything adds up. So since I have a column width of 320, that means that I have my content I'm using. You see that these are only 300 pixels wide. So and that gives me 10 pixels of padding on each side, which is equal to 320. Okay. So now that you see that, and then the animation, you saw how they slid around a little bit. You can change how that happens and how often that happens. Okay. So the next thing is you need to download the JavaScript file, and you can get that from masonry.desandro.com. Okay, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes below. And to get that, where do you go to get that at? Download. Okay, big button right here. Download the script. So you want to download that because you're going to have to link that into your site HTML. Load that into your site HTML. Okay, so when you're ready to load that in your site HTML, you have to go to Page, Site HTML, and I did it after the body tag. Okay, and you'll see I just used this. I didn't actually download that script. I'm just kind of loading it in from his site for now because I don't plan on using this full time or anything. But you're going to want to download that script, upload it to your website, and then pop your URL in here. Alrighty, so. And one last thing you got to do on each one of your layers here, you want to go into Object HTML. So you right click on Object HTML, click on the tag that says Inside Tag, a little tab up here at the top. And remember when we named it, we said we were going to leave it say item. That's what you put. You put class equals quotation item quotation. So what you're doing is you're basically calling the CSS item, the CSS class named item. Okay. And once you've done all that, you should be in good shape. You should be able to do all of this. And then you can kind of play around with it a little bit. You know what? Here's the other thing. I'm sorry. On the main layer, we want to have this set up as a docking layer. Center it horizontally. Okay. And that'll set it up right. I forgot to mention that. The other thing I was going to do is go and get rid of this background so we can see just this. Take another look at it again real quick. There it is. Pretty cool stuff. So hopefully this helps a little bit. Helped you figure this out a little bit. I know it was tough. It took me quite a while actually to figure out how to use this. I had to read a lot of stuff. So I know there isn't really any like great documentation on the internet for how to do this. So hopefully this video helped. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to help you out. And I will catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks.